The Whispers in the Dark Forest. It was getting dark when the group of 5 friends, Hung, Mai, Lin, Dung, and Kang, stepped into the dense Tanang forest, carrying tents, food, and excitement. They had planned a 2-night camping trip in nature, far from the suffocating city. All were final-year university students, and this might be their last trip together before life took them in different directions. I heard a group of tourists went missing in this forest a few years ago, Lin said as they rested under the trees. She loved looking up ghost stories and always carried a few creepy tales to scare everyone on their trips. Oh, stop it, Mai shivered. Don't bring up creepy stuff in the middle of the woods. Dung chuckled. That's probably just rumors. Who still believes in those things nowadays? But Hung stayed quiet. He wasn't much of a talker, but he had a strange sensitivity to anything unnatural. Ever since they entered the forest, he had felt something was off. Not a sound, not the wind, but a chill that clung to every breath he took. That night, they pitched their tents near a small stream, lit a fire, grilled meat, and laughed under the stars. But around 11 p.m., as the fire started to fade, they began to hear whispers. At first, they thought it was the wind. But these whispers were unmistakable. Hushed voices, broken syllables, calling each of their names. Hung, Lin, Dung. Mai shot up. Did you guys hear that? The group fell silent, ears straining. Maybe animals? Khan offered weakly, though his face had turned pale. Animals don't whisper names, Lin said flatly. I'm not joking anymore. This isn't funny. They tried to shake it off and crawled into their tents. But no one could sleep. The whispering continued. Sometimes far, sometimes right outside the tent, like someone was circling them. Every time Hung closed his eyes, he felt someone leaning close to his face. He snapped his eyes open, but there was nothing, just the suffocating dark. Around 3 a.m., Dung screamed. Everyone rushed out. Mai's gone! They ran to the stream where Mai said she'd wash her face before bed. On the wet grass were her footprints leading deep into the woods, and then they simply vanished. They shouted, screamed her name, but only the echoes answered. She was just here minutes ago, Lin said, panicking. We need to call the police. Kine pulled out his phone, no signal. We have to find her, Hung said firmly, gripping his flashlight. They spread out and searched. The deeper into the forest they went, the denser the trees became. The air grew heavier, and the night felt darker than before. Lin screamed when she found a piece of fabric, Mai's shirt, snagged on a branch. Below it, the muddy ground bore footprints unlike anything human. Long, clawed impressions. These aren't human footprints. Run! Dung yelled as the flashlight beam caught something standing just meters away. A woman with long hair covering her face, in tattered clothing, hovering above the ground. The figure didn't move, but the group scattered in terror. They lost each other in the darkness. Day 2. Hung awoke beneath a tree, scratched and bruised. His watch had stopped. He was alone. He wandered the forest, calling out the others' names. Then he heard Mai's voice, faint, pleading. Hung, help me. He bolted towards the sound, crashing through thorns until he saw a pit, deep and wide. At the bottom stood Mai, or someone that looked like Mai, standing still, her face turned backward. Then she looked up, her eyes blank white, mouth ripped ear to ear, and let out a screech like nails on stone. Hung screamed and ran. That evening, Lin and Khan found each other, but Dung was still missing. They returned to camp. The tents were still there, but their supplies were torn apart as if something had been rummaging. On the ground was a large circle drawn in dirt and dried blood. Inside it were 5 letters, HMLDK. Khan trembled. It's hunting us in order of our names. Mai, then Dung, Lin whispered. Who's next? They didn't sleep. But when night fell, Lin suddenly stood up, eyes glassy, and began walking into the forest as if in a trance. Khan grabbed her. Lin, snap out of it. She's calling me, Lin said softly. Who? The woman in the woods. She says I'm beautiful. She needs a new face. Lin smiled, pulled a small knife from her pocket, and cut her own cheek. Khan screamed. Next morning, only Hung remained. He found Khan crouched by the stream, rocking back and forth, whispering, Don't take my eyes. Please don't take my eyes. Deep gouges ran across his forehead as if claws had tried to rip his face open. Hung could no longer cry. He knew. He was the last one. He began to dig, not to bury anyone, but to hide. He dug deeper, deeper, until the light no longer reached him. There, in the cold darkness, he curled into a ball. But the darkness wasn't silent. It whispered, "Hung, your turn." 2 weeks later, the search team found the campsite. Empty. No bodies. Just 5 blood circles carved in ritualistic patterns. Near a deep pit, they discovered a scrap of paper, soaked in blood. Don't listen to the whispers. It's not human. If you hear your name, cover your ears or rip them out. The camp in the orphaned valley. What was supposed to be a fun camping trip in the forests of Lamdong quickly turned into a nightmare with no escape. The group of 6 university sophomores, Trang, Fung, Long, Lun, Hao, and Tin, were friends with a shared love for photography and adventure. They had heard about an unmarked area called Orphaned Valley, a place with no tourists, no phone signal, no locals, and no one quite knew why it had such a strange name. I asked a few locals, and they all said not to go, Long said on the way. Some people went there and never came back. Makes it even more exciting, Fung laughed. Probably too beautiful to leave, right? The bus dropped them off 5 kilometers away. The rest had to be hiked. There were no signs, and the map Tin brought only had a vague label, Valley Trail Unmarked. By 4 p.m., they reached the valley. The view was stunning. A stretch of pine trees, a soft green meadow between 2 mountains, golden sunlight spilling across the grass. But no birds, no insects, just an unnatural silence. This place feels like it's been abandoned for centuries, Lan muttered. Don't jinx it, Trang snapped. Let's just set up camp before it gets dark. They pitched 2 tents, made a fire, and ate under the open sky. But when night fell, a dense mist crept in from the forest, cold and sudden, engulfing everything in minutes. It's freezing, Hao said, teeth chattering. Long swept his flashlight around. It feels like we're being watched. Suddenly, a sob echoed in the valley, a faint, muffled weeping, like a child crying somewhere in the distance. Tin stood. It sounds like a kid. Don't go. Trang grabbed his arm. That's not human. The crying grew louder, mixed with low moans, like hundreds of voices weeping in the mist. Everyone scrambled into the tents, terrified. At 1 a.m., Fung screamed in the other tent. They rushed over and found her convulsing, eyes wide, mumbling the same words. They have no faces, no faces. Trang tried to comfort her, but Fung kept pointing outside. They're watching, getting closer. Long ran out, swept his flashlight through the fog, and screamed. A crowd of faceless figures stood silently in the mist, just meters from the camp. No eyes, no nose, no mouth, smooth skin where their faces should be. Like mannequins standing still in the dark. Tin yanked Long back and zipped the tent shut. No one slept. The mist seemed to breathe. The next morning, Fung was gone. No sign of her leaving. No sounds, just gone. But there were footprints. Barefoot, small like a child's, leading toward the trees. Day 2. Lun wanted to leave immediately, but Hao's compass spun wildly. GPS was dead. They were lost. They followed a stream, hoping it would lead out, but it twisted and turned until they were back at the campsite. No way. We walked in a circle? Hao cried. Long looked up at the hill. Did anyone notice that mound of dirt before? No. Then why is there a grave there now? They turned. In the middle of the meadow was a fresh mound with a wooden marker that read, Fung 2003, returned in her sleep. Silence. That's her birth year. Trang whispered. This place isn't our world, Tin murmured. We crossed into something else. The crying returned. Closer. They sat in the tents, gripping knives and flashlights, too afraid to sleep. At 2 a.m., Lun said he needed to use the bathroom. He took a light and left. 10 minutes, 20, 30 passed. He didn't come back. Hao went to check. Behind the bushes, he found Lun's flashlight beside a puddle of blood. Next to it lay a human face, torn clean off. Just skin. No eyes. They ran. Day 3. Only 3 remained. They climbed the hillside, trying to get a view of the outside, but the fog thickened the higher they went. When they came back down, the camp was gone. In its place, hundreds of graves, arranged in circles. Each one had a name. One of them said, Tin, 2024, didn't make it out. Tin screamed, digging through the grave. Inside were his own clothes, soaked in dried blood. That night, Trang vanished. Hao and Tin camped in the woods, back to back, awake all night. Then Hao disappeared, without a sound. Tin only heard soft rustling, a breath behind him. He turned around and saw a faceless figure inches from his face, its mouth opening from its throat, speaking in Feng's voice. "Help me." 1 month later, Teen's phone was found in a crack between rocks. Inside was one final recording. "This is Tin. If anyone hears this, don't go to Orphan Valley. The faceless ones, they need replacements. If you see a grave with your name on it, run. Don't look back. Don't ever look back." The Red Forest. They arrived at the forest in mid-autumn. 3 friends, Min, Vu, and An, old schoolmates reuniting after years apart. Min had just returned from 3 years in Australia, Vu had recently quit his job, and An was recovering from a rough breakup. They decided to go on a one-night camping trip in Chintung Forest, a place none of them had been before. But Min had found mentioned in a vague online post. "Chintung is just an old name," Min explained. "They say people went missing there years ago, and rumors started that the forest had 9 haunted levels." "Damn," and grimaced. "We're camping to relax, not ghost hunt." "Come on, once-in-a-lifetime experience," Vu laughed. "If we actually see a ghost, it'll be a story worth telling." They rented motorbikes to reach the edge of Fulum Commune, parked, then hiked in. The weather was cool, the air fresh, golden light filtering through deep crimson pine trees. Oddly, every leaf was red, even the young ones. "That's weird," and muttered. "Not a single green leaf?" "Maybe fall came early," Min shrugged. But he didn't mention the post he'd read said the forest's leaves were always red, all year round. They hiked deep in, set up camp near a small stream, pitched tents, made coffee, and watched the sun fade. But as night fell, the forest changed. Insects went silent. The wind stopped, but the red leaves began to fall, fast, like a downpour. "What's up with this tree?" Vu said, watching them swirl. "Feels like something's shaking it from above." And pointed his flashlight upward, nothing but branches. But when he lowered the beam, a bare footprint, wet and muddy, sat in the middle of their camp. "Who the hell is messing around?" Anne asked, voice shaking. "No one went to the stream," Min muttered, eyes scanning the trees. The leaves slowed. The air grew thick, pressing. For a moment, each of them felt it, a presence standing directly behind them. Midnight. And awoke to a squelching sound, squelch, squelch, like wet footsteps through mud. He unzipped the tent just enough to peek outside. The moonlight bathed everything in red. The leaves shimmered like knives. Across the stream, a figure crouched, facing away from him, and almost called out until it turned around. Its face had no skin, just raw, bloody muscle, hollow black eyes, and a mouth slowly chewing red leaves, and froze, breath locked in his throat. He zipped the tent shut and curled up, trembling until morning. He told no one. The next morning, Min left early to take sunrise photos. He left at 6 a.m. He didn't come back. Anne and Vu searched. They followed the trail, yelling his name. No reply. Around 10 a.m., they found his camera lying in a pile of dead branches. The first few photos were stunning. Morning light on red leaves, soft fog, golden beams. But the later photos turned shaky, tilted, rushed, blurred, like someone had started running. The final picture was taken near the ground and clearly showed a bare, bloodied foot standing beside the camera. They panicked. "We need to get out of here now," and shouted. Vu agreed. But the forest had changed. The trail from the day before now led somewhere else. Their compass spun. Mist rolled in, heavy and choking, even though there was no rain. "It's like the forest won't let us go," Vu whispered. That night, and dreamed of Min, naked, eyes bleeding, standing in the red forest. "Don't eat the leaves. Don't eat them. If you eat, you're no longer human." And jolted awake, his mouth full of chewed red leaves. He gagged and spat, his hands shaking. Outside the tent, Vu was crying. He sat by the dying fire, clutching a blackened stick. "Anne," Vu muttered. "I remembered I've been here before." "What?" "When I was a kid, my dad took me camping. I got lost, and I saw a woman in white standing in the forest. She told me to eat the leaves, said it would stop the pain. I ate them, and backed away." "Vu, what are you saying?" "I remember now. Whoever eats them can never leave." Vu looked up. His eyes were completely black. And ran. He bolted into the forest, through fog and falling leaves. Laughter and screams echoed from all directions. He tripped down a slope and blacked out. When he awoke, it was morning. The forest was quiet, still red. No sign of Vu. No tents, no trail, just a small stone marker with weathered text. Level 9, for those who ate. At the base of the marker lay a fresh human tongue. 3 weeks later, a forest patrol stumbled upon an old camera and a notebook wedged under a tree. Inside the notebook, only one page. Don't eat the red leaves. No matter how hungry you are, no matter who calls you, the forest will consume you. Those who eat, become it. The blood moon night on Hollow Hill. They arrived at Hollow Hill in late July in the midst of a heat wave. The group consisted of 4 friends, Kwan, Nya, Phuc, and V, close university friends who had been on many camping trips together. But this time was special. V was going abroad after the summer break, and they wanted one final memorable night. Hollow Hill sounds creepy. V commented as they hiked through brittle pine trees. Probably named that because no one lives here, Kwan chuckled, leading the group. According to this forum, the view's amazing, no cell service, total silence. We camp here, catch the sunrise, unforgettable. Phuc looked around, uneasy. I don't know why, but this place gives me chills. The land was dry and scorched, but in the middle of the hill was a wide, circular patch, flat, completely bare of grass, like it had been burned a long time ago. This spot's weird, Na said, crouching down. The ground's hot. They set up camp, ate, took photos. As the sun set, the entire hill glowed orange-red. It was eerily quiet, no sounds except the wind brushing across the empty patch. Sounds like someone whispering in the wind, V said softly. It's just the wind, Kwan said, trying to sound casual. Or maybe we're just feeling nostalgic since we're splitting up soon. Nia didn't respond. She kept staring at the sky. The moon was rising, and it was blood red. 11 p.m., Phuc woke first. He was roused by the sound of someone singing a lullaby, a soft, haunting melody. Old, echoing somewhere near the tent. Phuc unzipped the flap, flashlight in hand. The beam cut through the darkness and landed on a slender woman in a white dress, sitting in the middle of the circle, back turned, long black hair falling over her shoulders. Vi? She didn't respond. The lullaby stopped. Phuc stepped closer. V, quit messing around. And then she vanished. The figure dissipated into smoke as he approached. He stumbled back, heart pounding, eyes wide. When he returned to camp, Vi was gone. The next morning, they called her name, searched the area. Nothing. But in the center of the scorched ground was a fresh burn mark, the shape of a human body. Kwan went pale. I saw someone singing there last night, Phuc stammered. I thought it was V. You saw her? Na snapped. Her eyes were bloodshot. Then explain why I heard laughing. A woman's laugh, right next to my ear. No one wanted to stay. They packed up and tried to leave, but the trail they had taken to reach the hill had vanished. Only dead pine trees stretched in every direction. The compass spun wildly. Phones had no signal. The sun seemed frozen in place. That afternoon, no matter how far they walked, they ended up right back at the same spot. Now, in the middle of the burnt patch lay another charred body, flat on its back. It looked like Vi, or something that resembled Vi. None of them approached. With no other option, they rebuilt the tents. Na didn't eat. She sat and stared out at nothing, shaking. I remember now, she whispered as dusk settled. I dreamed about this place. What do you mean? Kwan asked. When I was a kid, I used to sleepwalk. My mom said I'd mutter about a woman with a veiled hat sitting in an empty field under a red moon. I always thought it was just a nightmare. Phuc's voice trembled. She's still here? Night 2. Kwan vanished. No sound. No footprints. His jacket and flashlight still in the tent. But in the middle of the burned ground, a new scorch mark. Nia sobbed. It's taking us one by one. Phuc held her hand tightly. We have to survive. Don't leave me, no matter what you hear. Around 3 a.m., fog rolled in. The lullaby returned, drifting from every direction. Then the sound of a baby crying. Then screams of men, of women. Na covered her ears. Phuc clung to her. Then the wind howled, and they saw dozens of charred, blackened figures, skeletal, surrounding their tent. They didn't move, didn't speak, just stared with hollow eye sockets. One of them was wearing V's clothes. The next morning, Phuc woke up. He was alone. Na was gone. The tent was empty, no blood, no signs of struggle. But in the burnt circle, a trail of ashes, twisting like a serpent. The wind picked up. Phuc looked down. His name was carved into the earth in black soot. Phuc, Blood Moon Night. 1 month later, a drone belonging to the group was found stuck high in a pine tree near Hollow Hill. In its final video, the 4 friends were sitting around the campfire, laughing. The footage glitched. Then, behind Vi, a woman in white appeared, wearing a wide, drooping hat. Her face was blurred and scorched. She sat down in the circle, right between them, but none of them seemed to notice. Then, one by one, they disappeared from the frame.